The dust on Kepler 442b never settled. It hung in the thin atmosphere like a red fog, making everything look ancient and dead. Hannah stood at the edge of the excavation site and watched the sun set behind the broken mountains. 3 months on this world, and she still felt like a ghost walking through someone else's grave. She pulled her scanner from her belt and checked the day's readings one more time. Nothing interesting, just more broken pottery and twisted metal that nobody could identify. Her supervisor would be disappointed again, but Hannah had stopped caring about that weeks ago. The camp lights flickered on behind her. Dinner would be ready soon, the same recycled protein paste they ate every night. Hannah turned away from the sunset and started walking back, her boots leaving deep prints in the red dust. Inside the main tent, Taiho was arguing with someone over the communication link. He was a tall Vryn with purple skin and too many eyes. Hannah tried to walk past without being noticed, but he spotted her. "Hannah, did you finish cataloging Section 7? His voice had that sharp edge that meant he was stressed. "Yes, sir. All uploaded to the database." "Good. Tomorrow you start on Section 8. The Council wants this site fully documented before the rainy season." He turned back to his screen, already forgetting about her. Hannah grabbed her food portion and found a quiet corner. The other researchers ignored her like they always did. They said her eyes were wrong, too blue and too bright. They said her face looked strange, not like any species they knew. Some of them whispered that she might be sick, that her genes were broken somehow. She ate quickly and returned to her small sleeping cube. The walls were thin plastic, but at least she had privacy. Hannah lay on her bunk and stared at the ceiling, thinking about the day she decided to become a xenoarchaeologist. She had been 12 years old, reading an old book in the colony library on New Pyongyang. The book talked about ancient civilizations and lost worlds. It mentioned something called humans, a species that supposedly ruled the galaxy long ago. Her teacher later told her that humans never existed, that they were just stories primitive people made up. But Hannah had never stopped wondering. What if the stories were true? What if humans had been real? The next morning came too quickly. Hannah was assigned to map the lower levels of Site Omega, the parts that nobody else wanted to explore because they were dangerous and probably empty. She didn't mind. Being alone was better than dealing with the others. She climbed down the metal ladder into the darkness, her helmet light cutting through the dust. The air was cold down here, preserved by some ancient technology that still worked after 50,000 years. The walls were smooth, not natural rock, but something manufactured. Hannah moved through the corridors slowly, scanning every surface. Her equipment beeped softly, recording measurements and taking pictures. Hours passed. She found nothing but empty rooms and collapsed doorways. Then she reached the end of a long hallway and noticed something odd. The wall looked different here, smoother than the others. She ran her gloved hand over the surface and felt a tiny crack. Her heart started beating faster. A hidden door? She pulled out her sonic probe and tapped the wall carefully. The sound echoed hollow. Definitely empty space behind it. Hannah knew she should report this. Protocol said any new discovery had to be logged immediately. But something made her hesitate. If she reported it, Taiho would take over. He would get all the credit, and she would go back to cataloging broken pottery. She made a decision. Just a quick look first. Then she would report it. Using her cutting tool, Hannah carefully carved around the crack. The false wall was thin, only a few centimeters thick. After 10 minutes of work, a section came loose. She pulled it away and shined her light through the opening. Her breath caught in her throat. The chamber beyond was huge, at least 30 meters across. And in the center stood something that made no sense. A massive crystal structure, taller than 3 people standing on each other's shoulders. It glowed with a soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Hannah squeezed through the opening and stepped into the chamber. The air felt different here, charged with energy. Her scanner was going crazy, showing readings that shouldn't be possible. She walked closer to the crystal structure, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing and shifting. They looked almost like writing, but not any language she recognized. When she was about 5 meters away, something happened. The crystal's light grew brighter. A beam shot out and surrounded her body. Hannah tried to jump back, but she couldn't move. The beam held her in place, warm but not painful. Her scanner sparked and died. The lights on her suit flickered. She felt the beam moving through her, touching something deep inside her cells. It was reading her, analyzing her, searching for something. Then the beam vanished. Hana stumbled forward, gasping. What was that? What just happened? Before she could think about running, the crystal's surface changed. The symbols rearranged themselves, forming new patterns. And then words appeared, floating in the air like a hologram. Words she could read. Words in Korean DNA match confirmed. Welcome home, daughter of Earth. Hana stared at the words, her mind refusing to accept what she was seeing. Korean was an ancient language, one that only a few scholars studied. It came from a planet called Earth, which supposedly belonged to the mythical humans, but humans weren't real. Everyone knew that. The Council had proven it decades ago. Humans were just stories, myths created by primitive civilizations. So why was this ancient crystal speaking to her in their language? Why did it recognize her DNA? More words appeared, scrolling past faster than she could read. Then she felt something in her head like a door opening. Information began flowing into her mind through her neural implant, the small computer chip that every citizen had installed at birth. Images flashed before her eyes. Ships flying between stars, cities covering entire continents, billions of people with faces like hers, with eyes like hers, and a name repeated over and over, humans. They had been real. They had built an empire that spanned 1,000 star systems. And then, 53,000 years ago, they had vanished. Not vanished. Murdered. The data kept coming, overwhelming her senses. She saw battles, saw entire planets burning. She saw humans running, hiding, dying. She saw other species that still existed today, hunting them down with cold efficiency. And she saw the Vryn leading them all. Hana fell to her knees, her head pounding with information. The crystal kept sending data into her implant. Thousands of years of history compressed into minutes. She wanted to scream to make it stop, but her voice wouldn't work. The genocide had been planned for decades. The younger species, led by the Vryn, had grown jealous of human advancement. They feared humans would dominate the galaxy forever, keeping others as servants. So they formed a secret alliance and struck when humans least expected it. The attacks were coordinated and brutal. Human colonies burned across 100 systems in a single day. Those who survived the initial assault were hunted down over the following years. Some humans went into hiding, blending in with other species. Others fled to the most remote corners of the galaxy. After the genocide was complete, the conspirators destroyed all evidence. They erased databases, burned libraries, and altered historical records. Within a few generations, most of the galaxy had forgotten humans ever existed. Those few who remembered were dismissed as believers in ancient myths. But some humans had prepared for this possibility. They had built archives, hidden facilities designed to preserve the truth. These archives would only activate when touched by human DNA, ensuring the secret stayed safe until the right person found it. Hana was that person. Her strange features, the ones that made others uncomfortable, were human traits. Her ancestors had been survivors who hid among other species. Over thousands of years, their descendants had mixed with other populations, but some genetic markers remained. In Hana, those markers had surfaced strongly enough to trigger the archive. The data flow finally stopped. Hana gasped and opened her eyes. The crystal was dimmer now, its light fading. A warning message appeared in her vision, projected by her implant. Archive detection protocols activated. Security forces alerted. Time to breach, 14 minutes. Terror shot through her. They knew. Somehow they knew the archive had been activated, and they were coming. Hana struggled to her feet, her legs shaking. She had to get out, had to run. But where could she go? Tejo would lock down the entire site. The supply transport wouldn't arrive for 3 more days. More information flashed in her vision. The archive had downloaded maps of Site Omega that showed passages the official surveys had never found. There was a way out, a maintenance tunnel that led to the surface 5 kilometers from the main camp. She looked at the crystal one last time. It was pulsing faster now, preparing for something. Self-destruct, she realized. It would destroy itself to keep the council from studying it. Hana ran. She squeezed back through the hole in the wall and sprinted down the corridor. Behind her, she heard a deep humming sound that grew louder with each second. The map in her implant guided her through turns she would have missed otherwise. Left here, right there, down a shaft that seemed to drop forever. Her hands burned from sliding down the ladder rails too fast, but she didn't stop. She was halfway up a different shaft when the explosion hit. The whole structure shook and dust rained down from above. Hana held on tight, waiting for the tremor to pass. The crystal had destroyed itself, taking the hidden chamber with it. No one would ever know what she had found unless she told them. But who would believe her? She had no proof. Just data in her implant that could be dismissed as corrupted files or hallucinations. The council had spent thousands of years convincing everyone that humans were myths. They wouldn't let one junior archaeologist ruin that story. Hana reached the surface as the sun was setting again. She was far from the camp in a valley filled with broken rock. Her suit's communication system was silent. Either it was damaged or someone had jammed all frequencies to keep her from calling for help. She started walking toward the mountains where the supply routes ran. If she could reach one of the automated cargo stations, she might be able to stow away on a transport. It was a slim chance, but it was all she had. As she walked, she explored the data in her implant more carefully. There was so much information. Historical records, genetic databases, and something else. Coordinates. 6 more archive sites scattered across the galaxy, each one waiting for human DNA to activate it. And there were names. The archive had identified other individuals with strong human genetic markers, people living ordinary lives across dozens of worlds. They didn't know what they were, didn't know their true heritage. But they could be found, contacted, told the truth. Hana stopped walking and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, more people like her were going about their lives, feeling different and wrong and alone. If she could reach them, if she could show them what she had learned, maybe together they could do something. But first, she had to survive the night. She reached the cargo station 2 hours before dawn. It was a simple structure, just a landing pad and a storage building. An automated transport was scheduled to arrive at sunrise, carrying supplies for the excavation. Hana hid behind a stack of cargo containers and waited. Her suit's environmental system was running low on power, and she was cold despite the heating elements. She kept checking her implant's connection to the camp's network, watching for any sign that they knew where she was. At 0547 local time, the transport appeared in the sky. It was a big, ugly cargo hauler with no windows and minimal sensors, perfect for sneaking aboard. The ship landed with a heavy thud. Its cargo bay doors opened automatically, and loading robots rolled out to collect the containers. Hana waited until they were busy on the far side of the pad, then ran for the open bay. She slipped inside and found a gap between 2 massive crates. It was cramped and dark, but she could breathe. The robots finished loading and returned to their dock. The bay doors closed with a hiss. Hana felt the transport lift off. She was leaving Kepler 442b behind, leaving Site Omega and Taiho and her old life. She didn't know where the transport was headed, but anywhere was better than here. As the ship climbed toward orbit, she pulled up the list of names in her implant. The first one was a pilot named Jiho, working on a freight station near the Draxian border. According to his genetic profile, he had even stronger human markers than Hana. She composed a message, carefully encrypted with codes the archive had provided. The message was simple: I know what you are. I know what we are. We need to talk. She sent it, then closed her eyes and tried to rest. The real work was just beginning. The Council had spent 50,000 years hiding the truth about humanity. Hana was going to spend the rest of her life revealing it, no matter what it cost her. The freight station orbited a dead moon in a system nobody cared about. It was exactly the kind of place where people went when they wanted to disappear. Hana had been hiding here for 3 weeks, working odd jobs and sleeping in a storage locker she rented under a false name. Every day she checked her messages, waiting for a response from Jiho. Every day there was nothing. Maybe he thought it was a prank. Maybe he was too scared to reply. Or maybe the Council had intercepted the message and was already hunting them both. Then, on day 23, a response arrived. 3 words: Dock 7, tonight. Hana's hand shook as she read the message. This was it. Either Jiho believed her or she was walking into a trap. She grabbed her few belongings and headed for the docking ring. Dock 7 was at the old end of the station, where the lights flickered and the air smelled like rust. A small cargo ship was docked there, its hull scarred from years of rough use. The name on the side said Lucky Break, but it looked like its luck had run out long ago. A man stood at the bottom of the loading ramp. He was tall and lean, with dark hair and eyes that reminded Hana of her own reflection. When he saw her, his expression changed from suspicious to shocked. "You look like me," he said quietly. "I know," Hana replied. "That is what I needed to tell you." Jiho gestured for her to follow him onto the ship. The interior was cramped but clean. He led her to a small cabin and sealed the door behind them. "Your message said you know what I am. What does that mean?" His voice was careful, controlled. Hana took a deep breath. Then she told him everything. The archive, the crystal, the genocide, the truth about humans. She showed him the data in her implant, let him see the genetic markers they both shared. Jiho listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he laughed, a bitter sound. "I always knew something was wrong with me. People stare. They whisper. I thought maybe I was sick, that my genes were damaged. But you are saying I am the descendant of a species that ruled the galaxy? Yes, and you are not alone. There are others like us, scattered across dozens of worlds." Jiho stood and paced the small cabin. Hana watched him process the information, saw the emotions cross his face. Disbelief, anger, and finally, acceptance. "What do you want to do about this?" he asked. "I want to find the others. I want to tell them the truth. And I want to find the other archives. The Council will not let you do that. If they find out what you know, they will kill you. I know. That is why I need help. Your help." Jiho studied her face for a moment. Then he nodded. "All right, I am in. Where do we start?" Over the next 2 months, they found 3 more people. Nari was a data analyst on a corporate station, brilliant and paranoid. She had been collecting suppressed historical records for years, sensing that something was wrong with the official story. When Hana showed her the archive data, Nari cried. Do-hyun was harder to convince. He had been a council security officer before he quit in disgust. He knew things, dangerous things about how the council operated, but he was also cautious, afraid of being used. "If I help you, they will come after me," he said when they first met. "They are already coming after all of us," Hana replied. "The only question is whether we face them alone or together." He joined them the next day. The 4th person was Yunho, an engineer who specialized in communication systems. He was young, barely 20, and excited to be part of something important. His enthusiasm made the others nervous, but his skills were undeniable. They met on a small mining colony where nobody asked questions. Jiho had rented a warehouse, and they used it as their base. The 5 of them sat around a table covered with datapads and maps. "So what is the plan?" Nari asked. "We cannot fight the Council directly. They have armies and fleets. We do not need to fight them," Hana said. "We just need to tell the truth. If we can access more archives, if we can gather enough evidence, we can broadcast it to the entire galaxy. They will shut down any broadcast immediately," Do-hyun warned. "I have seen them do it before." "Not if we do it right," Yunho said, leaning forward. "The Council controls the main communication networks, but there are ways around that. Backdoors, old systems that nobody monitors anymore. If we use multiple transmission points simultaneously, they will not be able to stop them all." Nari nodded slowly. "It could work. But we need more than just the data from one archive. We need concrete proof that cannot be dismissed as fabricated." Hana pulled up a star map on her datapad. 6 points glowed across the display, marking the locations of the other archives. "Then we visit them. All of them. We gather everything we can and compile it into a package that nobody can ignore. That will take months," Jiho said, "and every archive we activate will alert them. They will be hunting us the entire time." "I know," Hana replied. "But what other choice do we have?" The room fell silent. Each of them understood what Hana was proposing. They would be fugitives, hunted by the most powerful organization in the galaxy. Many of them might not survive. But the alternative was to live the rest of their lives knowing the truth and doing nothing about it. Do-hyun was the first to speak. "I am in. I have wanted to hurt the Council for years." "This is my chance," Nari raised her hand. "I am in too. My whole life I have been searching for truth." "I cannot stop now," Yunho grinned. "Someone needs to make sure you all do not get killed by bad communication encryption." "I am in." Everyone looked at Jiho. He sighed and rubbed his face. "I must be crazy. But yes, I am in." Hana felt something warm spread through her chest. She had been alone for so long, feeling different and wrong. But now she had found her people. They were broken, scared, and probably doomed. But they were hers, and she was theirs. "Then we start tomorrow," she said. "The nearest archive is in the Korvax system, about 6 days away. Nari, I need you to research everything you can about that system's security. Yunho, start mapping out communication nodes we can use for the broadcast. Do-hyun, Teach us how to avoid council surveillance. Jiho, get your ship ready. They worked through the night, planning and preparing. As dawn broke over the mining colony, Hana looked at her new team and allowed herself a small smile. The council had spent 50,000 years hiding the truth. Hana and her friends had 6 months to reveal it. It seemed impossible. But then again, humans had always been good at doing the impossible. The second day was worse than the first. Hana's fever climbed higher. She drifted in and out of sleep, her dreams confused and strange. Sometimes she thought she was back on Earth. Sometimes she did not know where she was at all. But through it all, the cubs stayed. They moved around her quietly, speaking in whispers. When she opened her eyes, at least 2 of them were always watching. Keeping guard, Elder Vesa called a meeting in the ship's conference room. Captain Day attended. So did First Officer Threx, Dr. Yuna, and Ambassador Prill, the aquatic Marinth who led the diplomatic mission. Engineer Nix was there too, his crystalline body reflecting the room's lights in rainbow patterns. Vesa stood at the head of the table. Her old eyes were bright with excitement. I need you all to understand what we are witnessing. This is unprecedented, not just for Vryn cubs, but possibly for any young species we know. They brought her blankets, Ambassador Prill said. Her voice came through a water-filled speaker, bubbling and strange. That is kind, yes. But unprecedented? Let me explain something about illness, Dr. Yuna said. She pulled up a display showing human biological data. When most species get sick, their immune system either wins quickly or they die quickly. There is no middle ground. But humans are different. She showed images of human cells fighting infection. The human immune response is slow and methodical. It takes days. During this time, the human remains conscious. They suffer, but they live. They are aware of their pain. They know they are sick. And they survive it. My people do not have this, Threx said quietly. If a Vryn gets that sick, death follows within hours. We have never evolved to care for the sick because the sick do not stay sick long enough to care for. Exactly, Vesa said. She looked at each of them. Humans evolved to endure illness. And because they endure it while conscious, they developed something else. The need to comfort those who suffer. To care for those who are in pain but not dying. To sit with someone through their long recovery? Engineer Nix made a sound like chiming crystals. His species had no concept of illness at all. They simply regenerated damaged parts. So human weakness created strength? Not weakness, Dr. Yuna corrected. A different kind of strength? The strength to keep living while your body fights an internal war. The strength to remain yourself while everything hurts. And the strength to help others do the same. Captain Day leaned forward. And the cubs have learned this from Hana. Yes, Vesa said. They have learned that comfort matters. That presence during suffering is valuable. That giving warmth to another being is not wasteful but essential. Hana taught them by doing it for them day after day. And now in her time of need they understand. They give back what she gave them. Threx stood suddenly. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. His tail moved slowly, a sign of deep thought. I told her she was making them soft. I said she was teaching them weakness. You were wrong, Vesa said gently. She taught them something my people forgot long ago if we ever knew it at all. She taught them that caring for others is not weakness. It is the foundation of everything strong. Threx turned to face them. When these cubs return home, they will be different from any Vryn children in our history. They will expect comfort. They will offer comfort. They will not understand why others do not. Is that bad? Captain Day asked. Threx was silent for a long moment. Then he shook his head. No, I think it might be the best thing that ever happened to my species. Ambassador Prill made a sound through her speaker. My people should learn this too. We leave our young to develop alone. Believing independence must be learned in isolation. But what if we are wrong? What if connection is more important than independence? We all have much to learn, Vesa said. From humans. From each other. From 7 small cubs who understand something we forgot. Back in Hana's quarters, the cubs continued their vigil. Kip had fallen asleep holding her hand. Mira sat by her head, gently stroking her hair the way Hana always stroked theirs. Tess had climbed under the blankets and curled against Hana's side, offering her body heat. The others watched quietly. When Hana stirred and moaned softly in her sleep, they all leaned in closer. When she shivered despite all the blankets, they pressed against the bed, trying to share their warmth. Dr. Yuna came to check on Hana. She scanned her vitals and nodded with satisfaction. The fever is starting to come down. Her body is winning the fight. When will she wake? Ven asked. His voice was small and worried. Soon, maybe tomorrow. Her body needs rest to heal. Dr. Yuna looked at the cubs. You should all rest too. You have been here for hours. We stay, Pick said firmly. The others nodded in agreement. Dr. Yuna smiled. I thought you might say that. I will bring food for all of you. She returned with meals appropriate for each cub. They ate quietly, never taking their eyes off Hana for long. After eating, they settled back into their positions around her bed. First Officer Threx came to visit. He stood in the doorway for a long time just watching. The cubs noticed him but did not leave their posts. They stayed with Hana, protective and devoted. Finally, Threx spoke. I owe you all an apology. 7 pairs of eyes turned to him. I did not understand what Hana was teaching you. I thought she was making you weak. But I see now that she made you strong. Stronger than I ever was at your age. Stronger than most Vryn adults ever become. His voice was rough with emotion. You know how to love. That is the greatest strength of all. Mira tilted her head. You can learn too. It is not too late. Threx looked at her with surprise. Then slowly he smiled. It was the first time any of the cubs had seen him smile. Perhaps you are right, little one. Perhaps I can. He left them there, still watching over their human friend. As he walked the corridors back to his station, he thought about his own childhood. Cold and efficient. No comfort offered, none expected. He had thought that made him strong. But watching these cubs, seeing their dedication and love, he realized something important. He had confused hardness with strength. They were not the same thing at all. Throughout the ship, other crew members were having similar realizations. The Quarrel engineer began spending more time with the younger members of his species, offering guidance and patience he never would have considered before. Ambassador Prill sent messages home, suggesting changes to how Marinth young were raised. Even Captain Day, who thought he understood humans well, learned something new. He recorded a personal log entry that night. We bring different species together hoping to share technology and knowledge. But the most valuable thing we share is not information. It is the capacity to care for each other. Humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy might not be their machines or their science. It might be their stubborn belief that everyone deserves comfort. Everyone deserves warmth. Everyone deserves love. He paused, then added, and 7 small cubs have proven that this gift can be passed on. That it can be learned. That it can change everything. In her quarters, Hana slept deeply for the first time since falling ill. Her fever had broken. Her body was healing. And all around her, 7 small beings kept watch, offering the same devoted care she had always offered them. They had learned well, and they would never forget. The relay station was a relic from a previous era, a massive structure floating in the void between star systems. It had been built centuries ago to connect the outer colonies, but newer technology had made it obsolete. Now it sat abandoned, its corridors dark and its systems barely functioning, perfect for what they needed. Yunho worked at the main communication console, his fingers flying across the controls. Cables and portable power units surrounded him, jury-rigged connections that fed energy into the old systems. The station groaned and hummed as it woke from its long sleep. How much longer? Hana asked, watching the progress bar on his screen crawl forward. 2 hours, maybe less. The upload sequence is complex because we are hitting so many nodes simultaneously. Yunho did not look up from his work. But it will work. Once this starts, every personal device in the galaxy will receive the broadcast. Do-hyun stood near the entrance, his weapon ready. His injured arm hung at his side, mostly useless now. But he could still shoot with his right hand, and his eyes were sharp as he watched the corridor. Nari monitored the communication channels, listening for any sign that they had been detected. For the past hour, everything had been quiet. Too quiet. They know we are here, she said suddenly. I am picking up encrypted council transmissions. Heavy encryption. The kind they use for military operations, Jiho cursed. He was in the lucky break, docked at the station's outer ring, ready to run at a moment's notice. How long until they arrive? 15 minutes, Nari replied after a moment. Maybe 20. They are coming from 3 different directions. Everyone looked at Yunho. He was still working, his face tight with concentration. I need 90 minutes. The upload is not even halfway complete. Hana felt her heart sink. They would not have 90 minutes. The council would breach the station long before then. All of this, all the running and hiding and fighting would be for nothing, unless they bought more time. Do-hyun, she said quietly. He looked at her, and she saw understanding in his eyes. He knew what she was thinking. He had probably known this moment would come since they started this mission. I can hold them off, he said. Not for 90 minutes, but maybe long enough for you to finish. No, Jiho said. We leave together. We find another way. There is no other way, Do-hyun replied calmly. You know this. The station has 3 access points. I can seal 2 of them and defend the third. It will slow them down. Hana wanted to argue, wanted to find some other solution, but he was right. This was their only chance. Thank you, she said, her voice breaking slightly. Do-hyun smiled, a real smile that made him look years younger. Do not thank me yet. Just make sure this works. Make sure everyone knows what the council did. He gathered his weapons and headed for the main corridor. At the doorway, he turned back one last time. It was an honor to know what I really am. To know that I am not broken or wrong. That means everything to me. Then he was gone. They heard the first explosion 12 minutes later. Do-hyun had sealed the north access point with charges, forcing the council troops to find another way in. The second explosion came 3 minutes after that. Then the shooting started. Yunho worked faster, his hands shaking but steady. The upload progress crawled forward, agonizingly slow. 50%, 60%. Each percentage point took an eternity. The sound of weapons fire grew louder. Do-hyun was falling back, defending every meter of corridor. Through the internal cameras, they could see him moving between cover points, his plasma rifle flashing in the darkness. 70%. The council troops were getting closer. There were dozens of them, heavily armed and armored. Do-hyun was alone, wounded, running low on ammunition. But he kept fighting. 80%. A plasma bolt hit Do-hyun in the chest. He fell but crawled behind cover, still shooting. His aim was getting worse, his movement slower. But he was buying them time, precious seconds that meant everything. 90%. Come on, Yunho whispered. Come on, come on, come on. Through the camera, they saw Do-hyun stand up one last time. He was covered in blood, barely able to hold his rifle. The council troops were almost on top of him. He looked directly at the camera and smiled. Then he threw a grenade at his own position and everything went white. 98%, 99%, 100%. It is done, Yunho said. His voice was hollow. The broadcast has started. Every system in the galaxy is receiving it now. Run, Hana said. She grabbed Nari's arm and pulled her toward the exit. We need to go, now. They ran through the corridors, hearing the council troops breaking through behind them. Jiho had the lucky brake ready, engines hot. They barely made it through the airlock before the first soldiers reached the docking bay. The ship pulled away from the station just as council cruisers arrived. But they did not fire. They could have destroyed the lucky brake easily, but they held back, because it was already too late. The broadcast was spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. Billions of people were watching Hana's recorded testimony, seeing the archive data, reading the genetic proof. They were learning about humans, about the genocide, about the council's lies, and the council could not stop it. They tried shutting down communication networks, but the data was already downloaded to millions of personal devices. They tried claiming it was fake, but the genetic evidence was undeniable. They tried threats and censorship, but people were angry now, demanding answers. The truth was out. After 50,000 years of hiding, humanity's existence could no longer be denied. Hana sat in the Lucky Break's cargo hold, exhausted and grieving. They had won, but the cost had been terrible. Do-hyun was dead. They were fugitives with the entire council hunting them. And the galaxy was about to tear itself apart over what they had revealed. But when she closed her eyes, she could see the faces in the broadcast. Thousands of people with features like hers, eyes like hers, looking at the screen with shock and recognition. They were learning what they really were, understanding why they had always felt different. They were not alone anymore. None of them were. Nari appeared in the doorway, her face illuminated by her datapad. Hana, you need to see this. Messages are coming in from all over the galaxy. People with human ancestry, reaching out wanting to know more. There are thousands of them. Maybe millions. Hana took the datapad and scrolled through the messages. Each one was from someone who had just learned they were human. Someone who had spent their whole life feeling wrong and different. And now they knew why. She thought about Do-hyun's last words. It was an honor to know what I really am. Yes, Hana thought. Despite everything, despite the danger and the loss and the uncertain future, it had been worth it. They had given millions of people the truth. They had returned humanity to the galaxy, and that was something worth dying for.